Okay. 1 second here. Looks like people are still popping in, so let's see, it's 8:01. I'll give people 1 more minute before we get started. Okay. All right. So this is actually a PowerPoint with directions on how to do the proposal, which I will also show you in just a minute. So again, I've told y'all, I think before in this class, that the students really like this project, even though it's a lot of work. It really does give you a good idea on what it's like to start your own business. So many times when students tell me their future plans, they always say, well, I want to have my own business so I can be my own boss. And I don't think people really realize what it's like to start a business, what all it takes, particularly one in healthcare, because of all the rules and regulations and all the different people you have to be accountable to. It's really difficult to do that. So this business proposal gives you an idea of just how much is involved in it. So when you're thinking about why you need a proposal, why you need a plan, it helps you think about long-term care. About long-term, about your service line, process improvement, and cost-saving initiatives. Cost-saving is really important in today's world because you cannot continue to function if you're not making money. So even though none of us really like when people go around, because it seems like the first thing people want to do to save costs is cut salaries or cut people. But sometimes, you have to do it for the good of the whole, because you won't survive if you don't do it. Okay. Okay, it's not working. Let's see. There we go. All right. So some of the external uses for planning is that can help you in getting external funding. When you finish this project, you literally could go to a bank and hand it to them, and have them, and they would know exactly what you need the money for, and whether or not they're willing to invest in you. It also shows that you're mature in your planning. You've thought about all the things that they may want to know about to be sure that it is a success. And then oftentimes plans are used to identify strategic alliances, which people look at your plan and they decide whether or not they want to partner up with you. And strategic alliances in today's world are tremendous. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're not. I, for one, for instance, JetBlue has been trying to buy out Spirit for, I don't know, about a year now, and they keep butting heads with the Department of Transportation and a number of other people. I guess they would call that a strategic alliance, because they would be partnering with a low budget airline. But I have a fear that would bring JetBlue down a couple of steps, So you wonder if always the strategic alliances always work out for the best of the consumer. In the for-profit environment, you've got mergers, acquisitions, candidates are screened based on their planning documents. You can assist in gaining customer commitment. Strategic plans are often required to dispel doubts about a company. Again, I'm going to probably tell you this 3 or 4 times, but just because you work for a nonprofit or you're building a nonprofit does not mean the company is not going to make money. Because I can tell you that a company that doesn't make money will not be around for long, because you have to have money to pay salaries. You have to have money to pay rent and leases and, equipment and all these different things. So nonprofit is just a designation on what happens to the money at the end of the year after you paid all your commitments. If you're a for-profit, the money goes into the pockets of the people who own the company, people who own shares in the company. If you're a nonprofit, the money goes back into the company for whatever they need for the next upcoming year. So you need to, is it feasible? Is this the idea that you have? If you ever watch Shark Tank, they often say, well, I guess it's a good idea, but how can you carry it out? So is this something that can actually be done, or is it just a pie in the sky idea? If it's a new service, is it going to be profitable? Or in the nonprofit world, does it contribute to the fund balance? So is it going to drain your fund balance? Are you offering something that will not bring money back in? Or is it going to contribute to making your fund balance more healthy? And then what resources are required to develop it? You can have a great idea, but it might be impossible to develop. Like, someone may say, I think we need a cure for cancer. Well, yeah, of course, that's a great idea, but is it feasible to develop it? And how much money is it going to cost? And what is the idea behind it? What is your idea behind that? So, how much money is going to be required? Then the barriers to success. There's a lot of barriers to success. It can be like maybe you've got people, a competition that's already out there, and maybe you're not offering anything that is enough different. Does it save money? What are some of the things that could be a barrier to success? Getting clients, getting the equipment, what could stop you from succeeding? Lack of money. Okay, so you can become a better decision maker. Planning will help you identify potential problems, gather information, and it can help you structure your thinking. Then it's a reality check. The plan raises questions that encourage solutions, but it also identifies strengths and weaknesses and reveals organizational gaps. We've done a little bit on the discovering gaps, strengths, weaknesses, threats, and opportunities. And you really need to do that before you go into something, because if you don't, you may discover you have a weakness that is too severe to overcome for this particular new business. So you really need to take an accounting of what you have available to you and see if it is really feasible to work. Because sometimes we have tunnel vision when we have a great idea. Excuse me. And with tunnel vision, you only see what you want to see. I see it a lot. I like to use Shark Tank as an example because I see it and I'm thinking, that idiot, because the sharks are telling them you don't have this and you don't have this. And all they can do is come back with, yes, but I have this, this, and this. So you have tunnel vision as to whether your business will be successful, can be successful, or, you're not seeing these huge issues that are going on with it. Okay, so it's also a plan is a guide to see if you're making progress. Are you clicking off the parts of the plan? I did not know why this thing is not liking to work today. Okay, so you're going to have your plan. It'll have a table of contents. And these are the parts that are in the proposal you'll be answering the questions to. So now the executive summary, you can't really assign the executive summary to anyone as there unless you want them to only be working on it at the end, because executive summary, it does not have any new information. What the executive summary does is summarize everything from the rest of the proposal. And it summarizes it in 2 to 3 pages. And the purpose of an executive summary is that someone can be looking at it and they can say in that 3 pages or 2 pages, they can decide whether or not it's something they're even interested in pursuing. If, for instance, let's say you give it to a bank, they're not going to read the whole proposal at first. They're going to look and see if from the executive summary, if it fits into their vision. So you You know, it's really an important thing. Also, a lot of times out on the web, if you do a search, you can find executive summaries of businesses. If it is a publicly held business, that information is out there. The business plan's out there, the executive summaries out there, it's all out there. So it does provide a synopsis of the whole thing in a nutshell. And it provides a brief description of the market, like what's out there already, the competition. Is there a need for it? You can have the greatest widget in the world, but if there's not a need for it, if it doesn't solve a problem, then it's not going to sell. So is there a need for this service or this business that you're opening up? And then it just gives you a very brief estimate of the funds that are going to be needed for the project. It's important because it helps you develop a concise, it's important to develop a concise description of your idea in order to capture the interest of the people you're presenting it to. And it's supported by everything in the main body of the business plan, which are all those questions you're going to answer that you'll see in just a second. Okay, when you're looking at the company profile, it's just an overview of your organization, who's involved, the main people involved, what is the scope of what the company does. If you are opening up a plastic surgery clinic, then maybe you're only going to specialize in cosmetic surgery and everything that goes along with it, like beauty type devices, like, Botox and, lifting the butt or getting rid of the wrinkles or whatever it happens to be. Or maybe that's going to be part of the business, but you're also going to do reconstructive surgery. Because plastic surgery, when we think of plastic surgery, particularly in California, we think of people wanting to look younger, because that in California, that seems to be a really big thing, probably because of the acting industry and the movie industry and the music industry and everything that kind of centers itself here in Southern California. But plastic surgery is so much more. It gives people who have been burned over 90% of their bodies a new lease on life. It's all kinds of things that are medical necessities, as opposed to just being a cosmetic thing. So the industry overview, this is an analysis of the industry and the economy in which the organization operates. It will show that you have an understanding of the industry characteristics and what the trends are. Trends can change over the years, and for instance, let me just give you a really broad example. In the 30s and 40s in the movie industry, people looked strictly at beauty, but they didn't look at how good a shape they were in. If you were to go back and look at movies from the 1930s and 40s, and you look at, for instance, some of the heartthrobs, like Clark Gable or Glenn Ford. Y'all probably haven't heard a lot of these, but they were like the heartthrobs of the 30s and 40s. They had really very handsome faces, but their bodies were like just mushy. They were like no muscle mass, very skinny usually, just but not what we see in today's world. And then as you kind of progress through, you see that slowly but surely you start gaining, it's not just beauty, it has to do with how fit are you, how good do you look in a bikini, or how good do you look, with just a muscle shirt on or whatever it happens to be. But the trend is more towards healthy bodies, and that gets displayed in the movies. So, lots of things change over the years. Trends can come and go. For a while they had a lot of people wanting to lose weight, so they had all these weight loss clinics that gave you shots and pills and everything else, to help you not have to suffer while you lost weight. And now you don't see as many of those anymore, because they've discovered that the pills and, have long-term lasting effects, and, the shots, the same thing. So now it's back to proper eating or lap band surgery or whatever it happens to be. But the trends have changed. So if you were running a fat clinic or a weight loss clinic in the say 90s and early 2000s, and doing it with the use of all kinds of medication, you probably aren't around anymore. So trends come and go, and every industry has trends. Okay, so the service overview section, it talks about the benefits of the new service you're trying to offer. It's also important to recognize that benefits do vary from customer to customer. So you're hoping to hit a happy medium, with your target group, because everybody, what drives a person to a business is not the same. Yes, everybody wants good service, but we hope that most businesses provide good service. And there's a lot of things that everybody wants, but then there's other things too that would drive people to the business. Maybe you have longer hours, and maybe that's important to some people who work all day or are only available on weekends. For some people, it may not be important because they can get off and go anytime, or they don't work. So that's, that would be one benefit that, yeah, maybe it would be a, benefit, maybe it wouldn't. Another benefit, some things are more extraneous, like, for instance, if I'm looking at, I know this sounds crazy, but the students that know me a little better can really agree with this, but, I do not want my truck to be beat up, dented, or dinged or anything else. So when I'm looking at a new business, the first thing I see is, what is their parking? Am I willing to go park there? Like, there's this new salad house I would love to try out that is over on Zimino and Atherton, I think. It's called Only Salad or something like that. But that parking lot is so horrible that I would never stop there, period, because they're parked all over on top of each other and all around. And so, that benefit they don't have, parking. So, it's different things are important to different people. And then why is this information important? Well, for new service proposals, the business is built around the definition of the service. So you should be able to describe what you're proposing. When you get through with this proposal, you should have a really good idea. You should know what, if I ask you questions like, who is your competition? Or if I ask you, why do you think that this business will be profitable in next year or 10 years from now? You should have a good idea, of whether or not your business is sustainable. You should have a good idea of whether people are willing to pay, what you are wanting them to pay for the service you're providing. You're also going to have to talk, and we'll talk about this in a minute, about real competition. If you are doing a great job, you're not going to be the only provider for a while. It'll last a little while, but then somebody will see you and they'll say, wow, that's a great idea. I can do it, and I can do it better, So what makes you sustainable? All right. When you conduct your research, and we talked about this in class before, you have your competitive analysis is, of course, who is your competitor and how do you fare against them? Your primary research, remember, that's research you do for yourself. That's research you go out and you do. Let's say you do a survey of your target market group and what it is that would drive them to your business. Secondary data sources are when you use other data that's already been collected by somebody else. Now, you do not actually have to do a real research project as part of this, but you have to be aware that these are things that you would do if you were really opening the business. You can do it and use, I would recommend secondary data. You don't have enough time to do primary, and to see what's available, what you can find out right now that talks about your business and what are the best practices to make it successful. And you do have a section on best practices also. Okay, your target market, you're never going to hit everybody, but you want to aim for your main target market. And your target market could be large, and you really want to hope for a fairly large target market, or you may not be sustainable. But, and it's an example of a target market might be if you're going to open a pediatric clinic, your target market would not be assisted living homes, you know, because that age bracket is going to be, for the most part, much higher than what age bracket is you'll be looking for. So who is your target market? Who is the most likely to use your service? Okay, it's important because you have to know who you're aiming your advertising at. You have to know who will be most likely to your business because they're the ones that will be bringing money into your business. So it's really important to know who your target market is and if you have access to them. Now, this is really important because a lot of students get confused about this. The competitive analysis is you have to find a real business that right now is already working and has been working for a while and, actually is out there, not one you create. So you find a real competitor, like if you were to actually open your business, this business would probably be your primary competitor. And then you have to analyze that. There's a whole section in the proposal where you analyze that particular business. And you look at the strengths and weaknesses and you look at their weakness as an opportunity. What can you do that would maybe draw customers away because you're stronger in that area? So, and then the strengths, you need to look and see if you can provide those same strengths, because you have to do a better job than the current business, or, you're not going to succeed. Now, a lot of things can also weigh into that, like location. Maybe the best plastic surgery clinic in Southern California is in Laguna, and maybe you want to open one in Huntington Beach. So that gives you a competitive edge. So you need to look at all the different areas, and there's questions specific to this, and we'll go over that in just a second. Okay, there's also barriers to entry and exit to your business, and barriers to entry can be a whole lot of things. One of the main things is money. It's really expensive. You have to have a lot of money to start with a lot of these types of businesses. It's where you can get the money to buy equipment and to pay for your indirect costs, which are costs you cannot bill directly to the client. Things like rent and the utilities, and like a receptionist who is not a direct bill to clients. So, what is your competition structure? And then you're going to have to also create your own. Like, what are barriers for you? What are exits for you? Exit issues. A really prime example of an exit issue would be you're not making money and you just want to shutter your doors. But if you've accepted money from Medicare, Medicaid, insurance companies that puts people in the middle of any kind of treatment, then you're going to have to find a place for them to go to continue their treatment. You can't just shut it down and stop in the middle when you've already been paid. You will be sued, and they will come back after you with a vengeance to get their money back if you have stopped treatment in the middle. So there's a lot of exit issues. There's things like leases. Leases aren't going to say, I'm sorry, go ahead and I'll let you break the lease and not charge you anything. No, they're going to make you pay that lease out. So it's not as easy as just shutting the doors and disappearing. Okay, again, you have to know what your competitive analysis is. You have to know what your competition is, so you know how to counteract it. Oh, and how do you conduct this research? Mostly by their websites. You can also look at referral sources. You can look at Yelp, and there's also, for specific businesses, medical businesses, there are review companies that review just medical businesses. You just need to go out and find them. You can also look at secondary data. You can look at their promotional literature. There's all kinds of places you can go to get the information. All right, you're going to have a marketing mix. And what are you going to use for your marketing, for primary marketing? Are you going to use social media? Are you going to use billboards? What are you going to do to market and promote your business? Things to consider are what messages is you want to convey, about your organization, and how are you positioning your service organization. And a lot of times particularly with medical organizations, you need to also include a community component where you give back, because that's really important to a lot of individuals when they're choosing a company. Does that company give back to the community, or is it all about making money? Okay, this comes straight out of your book, and it just talks about promotional strategies and some of the possibilities for those promotional strategies. All right, this is again looking at where you're going to provide your service. You're going to actually have to have an address of a real building. You're going to have a floor plan of that building. And if they don't have one, you're going to have to figure out how to create one yourself. And even if they have one, you're going to have to label it with what you're going to put in those rooms. Like, is this going to be a doctor's lounge, or is this going to be a waiting room? And the size. Every room needs to have the size, like 6 by 9, or whatever the size of the room happens to be. A lot of the buildings or have the floor plan and that information on Zillow or on Realtor.com. Some of them you may just have to call and ask for dimensions, but that information is out there. Okay, you have to look at how you're going to price everything. You may think you have the very best business in the world, and that people will come regardless of how much you charge. But in today's economy, that's just not the case. A new business coming in cannot charge premier prices and just expect people to come. Even the very wealthy will not come just because someone's charging a higher price, unless you have a really big draw. Like maybe you have a laser machine that nobody else in Southern California has, or maybe you've got the premier plastic surgeon in all the United States. But you're going to have some kind of draw, not just because you think you're the best. Okay, this calculator, it was working a month ago, so I would assume it's still working. That helps you come up with what you have to bring in and what goes out, and how you can break even, and if you're making money. Of course, you're not going to actually be a business, so when it asks you in the cash flow and plan and the other charts you have to do at the back, that is going to have to be a guesstimate of the money you're bringing in, but it's going to have to be a pretty close guesstimate. And you can get that idea from looking at other business plans that are out on the web in your particular area. You can look and see how much money is brought in typically, and you can guesstimate it from that. So that, of course, is going to have to be a guesstimate. So, but however, the part that goes out should be much closer, because you should know what the utilities are going to cost for that building. You should know what the lease is for that building. You should know what the typical cost is for a receptionist in Southern California, those kinds of things. And you can find all that information fairly easily on the Census Bureau website or on Glassdoor. Okay, the service delivery plan is how are you going to deliver your service? COVID changed our service delivery plans tremendously. In the last few years, there's been websites out there like ZocDoc and a few others that are interactive to find doctors, and a few that even allow you to visit a doctor through your telephone or your computer, but they weren't all that popular. However, once COVID hit, those things just blossomed with a vengeance, because people did not want to go into doctor's offices, because if you walked in a doctor's office, there was a good chance somebody was going to be sitting there with COVID. So you may leave in worse shape than you were when you went in. So all these technical and my apps, I'm blanking today, that were used to visit with doctors, to visit with nurses, became extremely valuable in the last 2 years. And now people have gotten used to it, and they really don't even want to go in the doctor's office unless they absolutely have to. So the delivery plans have changed a lot in medical areas. So, how are you going to deliver it? Other things that have changed are, I can remember like 100 years ago when I was in junior high, the doctors actually made house visits, and they would come visit you. If you were ill, you'd call the doctor the night before, and he'd come the next morning. You actually had their personal phone numbers, and he would come the next morning and at your home and visit in your home. And then he would hold his office hours in the afternoon. Well, eventually doctor's visits became a thing of the past. And if you go back even further than 100 years ago, if any of you have ever watched Little House on the Prairie, or where the doctors, or Gunsmoke, or any of those old shows where the doctors actually had their little horse and buggy, and they always went to where the patient was at. And that's how it was, in the beginning. But then over the years, it morphed into that we now go. However, with COVID, there's been a lot of innovation. There have been people that have gotten vans now that they even go to your house and do scans, and like for pregnant women, they'll go and they'll do the scans that they do in this mobile vehicle. There's also have doctors now that will set up on a parking lot in some sort of a medical van and see people there. They go to your house. Everything has kind of come full circle. So how are you going to deliver the service that you're providing? Human resources has to be extensive. You need to look at who are your clinical, not people, not actual names, but positions. Who are your clinical personnel? Who are your non-clinical personnel? And what are their duties, their roles and responsibilities? You need this because you need to know what you need and who you need, and you're hoping maybe for some combination, because when you first get started, you may not be able to afford a file clerk and a receptionist, So you need to look at what are you going to need? What kind of skills do these people need? You have to have financial statements, a balance sheet, and an income statement. And again, these are going to be estimates because you don't actually have the business yet, but you get that by doing your research, seeing what the typical amounts of money are that come in and the money that goes out. Now, the money that goes out is going to have a lot of bearing on what building you choose, and who you have working for you. What are their salaries? And there are some examples, but you do not have to use the examples that are in the book. You can use examples you find on the web. And some of my enterprising students in the past have actually found these out on the web that allow you to fill them in, then you just have to print them. And I'm okay with that. All right, the cash flow statement is, again, the money collected from billings and the money that's paid out. That's basically what it is. There's a website also for that you can use. Again, here's a sample of a cash flow statement. Then you're just going to put it all together. This is what is going to be used, what you're looking for to be able to create a business. All right, so the next thing I'm going to show you, and I'll ask for questions in just a second. Let me bring something back up here. All right, come on, why aren't you working? Okay. Okay, this is what you're going to be completing. This is on Beachboard under content. And I know I'm probably overwhelming y'all, but once you get into it, I promise you, it's not going to be as bad as what it looks. So, but it is a very, that's why it's worth as many points as it is, because it's a very extensive assignment. So this is the executive summary. Again, you're not going to do this until you finish the rest of it. But what do you include? That would be your table of contents. You've got marketing highlights, target summary. All this is going to come from the actual proposal itself, which starts with the company profile. Be sure you name your organization. So many groups forget to give it a name. So, and my suggestion to you is that the name suggests what it is. Because, you know, sometimes I'm driving down the road and I see a billboard and it's saying, you know, like, well, for instance, I was driving down Willow, and I happened to glance over at Willow and Lakewood, and there's this thing called, now I can't remember the name of it. It was like some kind of, oh shoot, it was a really weird name. Anyway, I looked it up, and it was a chicken restaurant, but it had some kind of crazy name to it. And I thought, what is that? Well, it drove me to look it up, but most people wouldn't look it up. And so be sure that your name kind of designates, like I didn't even have any kind of a clue that this restaurant was a restaurant from the name of it, you know, but it was crazy. It's like Crooked something or another. I can't remember. I have to look it up and let y'all know. But anyway, be sure your name sort of tells people what it is. Your hours of operation, consider that deeply, because I can tell you that, and for instance, I took my grandkids to in Tampa one day because my daughter was working, to the doctor. This doctor is only open Thursday through Sunday from like 8 in the morning until 9 at night, 2 of the days, and then all day Saturday and Sunday. And these are not like emergency visits. These are their hours. And they were so busy because there's so many young people, young couples where both of them work, and they cannot get to the doctor during the day. So being open on Saturday and Sunday is a real boon for them, or being open after 5 at night. So, you know, it was a different concept, but it seemed to be working for them. So, you know, I saw another one where it was 2 different sets of practice doctors. One of them worked normal hours, and then another one came in and worked the strange hours, you know, like 5 to, you know, whatever, 5 to 10, and then on weekends. So you can, you know, work it out to have best works for you, but always remember that the client is who you're trying to please, not yourself. Okay, the scope of the line of services, what are your services? What are you offering? And then the client served is your target market. The location of the clinics, again, real address, real building. Then describe your business, give a brief description of your business, or actually a pretty good description of your business. What are you doing? What are you gonna, you know, what is your purpose in your business, and so forth. And then tell me just simply, are you for profit or nonprofit? Any questions so far? You're gonna have to holler out because I can't see y'all. Are we doing okay? I'll give you time at the end too, but if you have something specific, holler out. Okay, I can't see you and I don't hear anything, so I'm gonna let it fly. All right, let's see. The industry overview. These are social changes that the first one is, what kind of social changes could affect your business? Well, if you were a weight loss clinic and all of a sudden people are saying, well, you know, it's not worth it. You know, we're not going to take those chances with pills and shots and, you know, a variety of other things that, you know, that could affect it. Other social changes, you know, again, trends, what's expected, what, you know, of people and what they consider at the moment to be valuable, those kinds of things. And again, I'll be giving you, this link will give you some examples, and I'll also be sending you an example sheet. Okay, economic reimbursement changes, how does it affect you? Every single day, I think there are laws and regulations changing. I think for me, being a compliance officer would be pure torture. But, you know, because those people have to watch, what rules are you, you know, going to not break, you know, like, and you've got rules at the hospital level, at the city, county, state, federal, you know, it just goes on. And you have to stay abreast of all that stuff. So if you're looking at changes that might affect your business, you might look at what's going on in the legislature right now. Maybe insurance companies. I saw something about insurance companies were going to quit paying for something. I can't remember what it was, and I thought, why are they not going to pay for that anymore? But look and see if there's anything going on in your area of your business that might affect that. If you're opening something else like I don't know, wellness clinic or yoga clinic or something like that, then are there any state or federal regulations that are now limiting some of the things that you can claim? What's going on out there? I was looking up something the other night about, because I know in Texas, insurance companies oftentimes will not cover if you have certain kinds of dogs, and I used to have Rottweilers, Chows, and Dobermans. Every single one of them were on the hit list, but I told my insurance company, because I didn't want to be liable. My dogs wouldn't have bit anybody, but I told the insurance company and they said, just don't tell us, So I guess you get a one shot. If they do something, then they'll pay that time. Maybe they'll drop you or tell you have to get rid of the animal, whatever. But again, that has to do with know what the rules are concerning your business. Okay, demographic changes. Demographic changes can have a vast effect, on your business. For instance, if you have, you're in an area that has a lot of apartments, and let's say that some big industry comes in and decides to plow down those apartments and turn it into an industrial area, that's a huge demographic change for your business. A lot of your clients are moving away, so how's that going to affect you? Other demographic changes might be if you are a pediatric clinic, maybe, you look at the overall population and maybe there's the birth rate is dropping, or, there's all kinds of, that's just kind of a very broad, very extreme examples. But, there's all kinds of things that can come into play as far as demographics. Then healthcare delivery changes. Again, I talked about that a lot of people are moving to doing it on apps or doing it on the computer or, that kind of thing. So how's that going to affect your business? Then regulatory and political changes, very similar to economic reimbursement, except that's more insurance companies. Regulatory political is more businesses that are, laws that are going on in state of California, or even local. Some local laws, are stepping in and saying, well, you can't do this, you can't do that. And it's strictly a local thing, that is not necessarily governed by the state. So there's all kinds of regulatory changes that could happen. Key factors to success in your segment of the industry. Again, there's a website you can look at, but you can also look at some of the organizations, professional organizations. You can look at Glassdoor. There's a number of places you can find factors, key factors for success. Barriers to entry. Again, there's all kinds of things that stop you from going into a business, from the money it takes to too much competition, not able to get money to open it, licensing, registration, all kinds of things can stop you from entering a business. And leaving, that also is, you can't, like I was saying earlier, you can't just walk away because you're not making money. Not if you have patients in the pipeline, not if you have leases on anything. They will find you. Okay, the service overview. What's the proposed new service for unique features? What are the unique features? I'll get this out in a minute of your proposal. What do you do different? Basically, is what that's saying. What are you doing different that will make people want to come to you? And what value does it provide to your key markets? Why would they come to you? Why would it be valuable to them? And what are the benefits of your service proposal? How is this proposal positioned against services by others? How are you positioned against the competition? And what are you doing differently? That's extremely important. You can't come out and say you're going to do the same thing and expect to be successful right off the bat. You have to be doing something different in order to make people switch and come to you. People are very loyal to the companies for various reasons, maybe because they really like them or maybe because they just don't like change, but people are very loyal. I've been going to the same person that cuts my hair in Texas for 35 years. And I go to Texas literally to get my hair done when I need it, need it trimmed. So, I don't like change, so I'm a very loyal client. And a lot of businesses have very loyal clients. So you need to be doing something differently that's important to them. Now, remember the competitive analysis, you must have a real business, one that is out there and operating. So it has to be a competition to you. And you're going to look at their website, you're going to look at their material, you're going to look at reviews of them. If some of this information is not available, call them. Like the pricing sometimes is not out there. You don't have to tell them what you're doing. You can just say that you are thinking of having some procedures, but you need to know what some of these procedures cost. Most times they'll send you a price list. They'll email you one. What makes them different? What is their real value that they deliver to customers that others do not? And this can be any number of things. This could have to do with being extremely secretive, like they could be very protective of their clients. It could have to do with maybe they offer limo services to and from and a back door that they can slip in and out of, maybe they have a laser machine that nobody else has. There's all kinds of things that they could have that makes them different and what the real value is that they deliver. Then describe their customer profile. And you can typically get that information from the website or from the reviews, possibly the reviews on the website, because, it typically gives you that basic information. And also you can do some research. If it's somebody looking for cosmetic surgery, let's say, then you could look up stats on what people typically get cosmetic surgery. And it's probably going to be like ages 25 to 50, typically. I'm just guessing. I have no idea. Probably upper middle class, because people who are wondering where their next meal is going to come from are not going to be going in for Botox treatments. So, what is their customer profile? And then the pricing strategy, if it's not on the website, you can't find anywhere, then you may have to make a call. They have to be transparent. They cannot just tell you, well, we'll tell you when we're done, so they should have a pricing strategy somewhere. And what is their marketing approach? Do they use social media? Like a lot of them, as y'all saw with your social media projects, a lot of them are, using various social media in a lot of ways. I know there's that, I've never watched it, but my students always point out that Dr. Pimple Popper, such a horrible name, the one in Florida, she uses social media with a vengeance. She even shows surgeries, and all kinds of things while they're going on. So, it's, what is this particular company using for marketing? So, and it may be that they've been around so long that it's just word of mouth, but typically, most companies have to do some sort of advertisement to let people know they're still there. And then why do customers use them? And what are the opportunities or threats to your organization? What are they not doing well that you could step up to the plate with? And what are they doing really well that you maybe can't even match, much less do better at? Because you need an overall picture. All right, the place, the address of where you're going to deliver your service. What are the costs associated with this? And this could be everything from leases to utilities to having front office staff, security, all the different costs that might be associated with this manner of distribution. What is the marketing importance of this location? Well, that's pretty self-explanatory. If you're, let's say I've had some people open up like Project AIDS clinics that project a business in that, and that are run on grants that are free. Then you're going to want to be in an area where typically has either close to that an area that has a lot of people from that population, or has great transportation, like a bus stop right in front or right next to a highway, something that's very easy to get to. If you're looking at, let's say you want to have open orthopedic clinic, you probably don't want to be right next to the one that is out there. Forget the name of it, but there's one that does most of the surgeries on the football players and basketball players and all the athletics. You probably don't want to be like across the street from them, because why would they come to you when you're right there by them? So there's, what is the advantage or the importance? Does it provide any competitive advantage? If you're in an area that needs a free clinic, then, and the only other free clinic is, 15 miles away, then that's a competitive advantage because you're closer to those individuals. And then what are the exit issues from this particular type of plan? Your pricing, again, you need to look at the labor costs of your full FTE is full-time employee. You need to look at the labor costs of your full-time employees. You're gonna, if you're a new business starting out on a shoestring budget, you're going to hope for people that can double up as this, like your receptionist is going to be your file clerk also, or maybe even a nurse's aide, that can help if necessary. So what are the, what are the positions that you're going to need to get your business up and running? And what's it going to cost? And you're going to find those costs by looking again at the Census Bureau, at Glassdoor, all these places that talk about the cost of salaries in the particular area you're going to be at. And you do not have to make your business for Southern California. I've had people find a building in Phoenix that was perfect for what they want to do. But wherever you do it at, you have to have the information from that area. And you can get that information from these various sources. Your overhead, remember overhead are your indirect costs. You're gonna have to pay that overhead, whether you have one patient walking in or nobody walking in, those costs are still there. Your margin is what you're making and what's going out. What is your margin between, what is your percent that the difference, like, are you losing money, you making money, are you breaking even? And then relative to the other competing service providers, is your pricing low, medium, or high? Okay, then your service plan is, again, how are you going to deliver your service? You need to know clinical protocols and description of best practices for your business, and those, again, are available on the web. Your cost analysis, this is just how much is going out and how much is coming in. You're going to have a flow chart of your service, and the flow chart is going to be how a patient flows through your business from the first time they make contact with you until they're out the door. And it is actually a flow chart. And I love creativity. I do give extra credit. As y'all know, I have no problem with giving extra credit for above and beyond. So this flow chart would be like, they call you, and then let me do one simpler, the emergency room. They come into the emergency room. The first little box would be that they go to the receptionist. And then the receptionist decides if they need to go immediately to the back, or if they need to go to triage, or if they need to go back and sit down and wait. So what is how does that person, then once they go to triage, what do they do next? Maybe they go to, they send them to the lab for some tests, or maybe they send them to a room in the emergency room. What happens as they flow through the business? Again, here's FTE, full-time equivalent. And that is how many people are you going to need to run your business? And then your space requirements. And this is where you're going to have to create a floor plan for whatever building that you find. Your human resources plan is going to, and you can combine this organizational structure with the compensation if you want, but you're going to have who are your clinical? Are you going to have a doctor full-time and a nurse? Or are you going to have a doctor part-time and a nurse practitioner or a physician assistant? Non-clinical, how many people are you going to need that do not actually have patient contact medically? How many of y'all are you going to need, I guess? How many administrator type or receptionist or whatever it happens to be? And then you need to have a guesstimate on the rate that they're going to be paid. And you can find that by looking and finding out what is the wage range for, let's say, for instance, a orthopedic surgeon in Southern California. And that's where the rate comes in. Then you need to decide what your typical benefits are going to be, or if you're going to offer benefits. If you have more than 10 people, you have to offer benefits. So are you going to offer vacation time? Are you going to offer days off, personal days, sick days? Are you going to offer health insurance, dental insurance? What are you going to offer? What are the benefits? And then describe the different positions and what the roles and responsibilities are for those positions. And then this is the cash flow statement, is when you're going to do those charts. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to come back. If I could see your faces, I'm sure that they would be stunned. I hope not, but it's really, I'm going to emphasize again, this is my class and you know that I'm here for you to be successful. And that anytime you have questions, you can always text me, email me, call me. I am always happy to try to explain it in a way that makes it, easier to understand, or maybe you need more direct examples. I will be emailing you an example, like I said, of one that was done a few years ago. So the APA, don't pay attention to the APA because it was 6th edition. And I think it might be missing a floor plan and a few other things. Since it's the proposal, it is not going to, talk about the activity that you have to do with the classroom and those things, but it is directly off of that sheet that I just went over with you. Okay, so do I have any questions? It can be any business as long as it's related to healthcare in some way. I've had, I can just tell you, I've had some doozies over the years, but I've had wellness clinics, I've had oxygen bars, I've had yoga centers. As long as you can tie it back to being health related, I'm okay with it. Questions? Okay, so here's how it goes. Y'all are going to do the proposal. And then once you turn the proposal in, I will turn it back around to you, hopefully within a week. And once you see my suggestions, my edits, I will tell you exactly what you're missing or what you're really good at. Then you'll turn that proposal into the PowerPoint presentation that you will be presenting. And remember that we're going to be presenting on the 22nd and then I think May. So, we're not going to present the 24th like the schedule says. We're going to do it 1 week and then 2 the next week. And I'm going to send that along with all this other stuff, the new schedule. Okay. And you will be getting credit for that day because I did schedule it and I had something come up. So you'll still be getting the 2 points for it. So you'll also be getting the 2 points for the extra day you'll go the next week. So it's kind of a built-in, I don't know, bonus for y'all. So, okay, questions, anybody?
When is this first proposal due?
Okay. I guess, Alejandra?
Yes.
Nope. Okay, you lit up a little bit, so I thought you had a question. Okay, all right, so what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna stop the recording. I'm
Dr.
going to
Martinez,
open up, there's not, all of y'all are not